We're not even gonna do a fucking thing to start it off. Fuck it.
Whoa.
This is gonna be it's 7,000 words. It's pretty long, but it's not super long compared to what I typically do when I go autistic. But I wanted to do this. I was sick last 2 weeks ago. We usually do these every 2 weeks for the listener, and I'm like a week ahead. And I planned this one because it was supposed to be like for come out for 4th of July. But today's the
Oh.
30th of June. So that doesn't give me my week and a half to edit and everything else.
Mm.
So I'm just gonna release this fucking unedited. Do a
Well,
raw
hey
one.
man, if the world and our podcast listeners are anything like the piece of shit neighbors I have, 4th of July lasts well into August. So
Is it okay? I know in like rural places it's got to be like fireworks and shit like that, but like do you guys get that? Like do you guys when
I
you
would
get why do you say that?
rather live
Why
in a rural place because it's been fireworks nonstop for the past 3 weeks, and it will be for an additional 3 weeks after fucking 4th of July.
really? Like the
I
town
don't
or just
know.
random people?
It's everywhere, dude, and it's gotten so bad. It used to be fireworks are illegal in New York State.
I was gonna say, are you sure it's not gunshots?
There was a period of time when I lived in a worse neighborhood than the one I'm in now, where I was like, "Wow, fireworks still in November?" And no, those ones weren't.
That one was a dead neighbor.
People were fighting.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's just fucking do this. I'm just gonna put it out raw. I'll probably run it through something real quick,
Cool.
but it'll be fun that way for us. So, yeah, we're gonna talk about one of your founding fathers today. Your specific.
Well, honestly, that's great because it saves me from having to hire a private investigator.
This is a private investigator.
I know, but it's the one that I work for.
It's one of those things where like if you live in a city, you don't go see all the like attractions, you know what I mean?
That's
Yeah.
true.
No, it's we're talking about a founding father today. I don't think I told you who we talking about. Do you remember?
Oh, I think you did. Is it Hamilton?
Yeah. It's the youngest one, Mr. Hamilton, Mr. Alexander
Right, right,
Hamilton.
right.
An elite team of private detectives.
What if balloons are aliens? Maybe that's the key component we're missing.
Cover-ups.
John's guilty.
Mysteries that need to be solved.
Maybe Mormons need mountains.
Richard, shut up.
Do you know much about the founding fathers? Like what kind of history
No,
do you
I
guys
learned I
learn?
learned recently he was a Hispanic guy that rapped. It was pretty progressive for 1770s.
You're gonna be actually surprised about a bit of this, I think.
Oh.
Um, because like, do you know much? Like, do you actually know anything? Like, do you remember any of this from your growing up?
Yeah, I can't fucking remember what he did. I know he was secretary of some fucking shit, right? Right? Like,
He's the first Secretary of the Treasury. Yeah,
right, that's what it was. The money guy.
yeah. He's on a $10
Uh,
bill for a reason. He pretty much invented
yes.
American capitalism. So that's kind of fun.
Awesome.
That's
Hate
good.
him.
Oh God. Okay, cool. So you don't really remember much. It'll probably come back to you as it goes. I
Yeah.
don't
I
learn
know
any of this.
he shot a guy, right?
Got shot.
Oh, it was the other way around,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I'm sure he shot a bunch of people. He was in the Revolutionary War. I'm sure he killed a lot of other people, like British dudes.
Yeah, he was busy retiring slaves.
You know what? He was one of the guys that was early time anti-slavery guy, which
No,
rare
I
for
I don't believe any of that fucking shit. There's so much whitewashing that goes on with these motherfuckers. Like they say it all the time in school. Like even if it's just like, yeah, I mean, like he had slaves, but like he wasn't like a huge fan of it. It's like, oh wow, he was one of the good ones.
The thing about Hamilton, we'll just talk about it real quick now, is he wrote more than anyone probably ever in his 47 years. He wrote so much, and he did write a lot about like abolishing slavery and stuff like that. But there's a bunch of writing of him purchasing slaves. So like, you're not wrong. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
it's like those people who are like, man, fuck cars and we need public trip, but then like they drive a car every day. And it's like,
It's true. Okay, so let's get into it. Alexander Hamilton, widely known as one of the most influential founding fathers, if probably top three besides like Washington and Benjamin Franklin, he's probably the third most influential out of all of them, which I didn't really know that. The reason I wanted to do this episode originally is because of Molly, my daughter.
Oh.
She's right into the musical Hamilton,
Oh.
like a lot. And I've heard the songs at least a million times now.
And you really wanted to just shatter any of the positive illusions she had of the American revolutionaries.
This is my entire goal was
Yeah.
to like, because Lin-Manuel Miranda, who wrote Hamilton, they put a whole part in how he's like trying to abolish slavery. Like one of the guys like John Lawrence dies and he's like, I just wanted to see the first all black regiment, but he's dead, like talking as a ghost. And it's like, yeah, but he still owned slaves.
No, he didn't. That's that's crazy. That is so crazy, especially crazy because they had people of color say those things and do those things in that show and be like, they weren't bad guys, even though they were the definition of the worst fucking guys.
I love how this is going to go for us today. I could see your attitudes toward the founding fathers is exactly what I assumed it was going to be. It's phenomenal. So yeah, I've heard the songs a million times now, and just for Molly's sake, I'm going to be throwing in song title names because I'm a dickhead.
Great. Should have been sadder about your dead dog, Molly. That's what you get.
All right, so I love doing these history ones from time to time because I realize how little I actually know about this stuff. You hear a lot about it. I live in Canada. I didn't learn any of this shit at all. So yeah, it was cool to see. I don't want to spoil too much, but we did say it already. But Alexander Hamilton died dueling a former vice president. I fucking love that. He died getting shot by a vice president who just became not vice president. Like he was literally out of the office for 6 months. That's fucking
Yeah, it'd
amazing.
be really cool if like Mike Pence blew a ball bearing through JD Vance's skull.
Oh my God.
Just settle a score. You looked at my wife while I wasn't in the room.
Dueling was like on its way out. It wasn't really an American thing. It was more like a British thing. But like they're all British dudes just coming over to America. So they still had it.
Yeah,
But by that time, it was like on its way out kind of thing. But people still did it. I find that crazy.
huge mistake.
Is there, because a thing that I read about too is that a lot of places, especially in the South, probably not where you are, but they like, you go to a park somewhere and someone's like, this is the old dueling grounds. This is where guys used to settle their scores. You're like, wait, there's a swing set here now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I was there then too. It was just everybody would go down and you'd bring the kids to watch the duel.
Probably.
Yeah.
They didn't have Netflix. So it's amazing. Couple things. Like I said, he wrote a lot. So there's a lot on Alexander Hamilton, more than a lot of other historical figures from that period, just because, like I said, the guy wrote. We'll talk about how much he wrote later. Teddy Roosevelt called him the greatest man of that generation. Quote from Teddy Roosevelt is Hamilton, the most brilliant American statesman who ever lived, possessing the loftiest and keenest intellect of his time. So,
Violent rich white man praises violent rich white man.
I knew this is how this is going to go. I love it. All right, so let's see why. So on January 11th, 1757 or 1759, it's debated, Alexander Hamilton was born on the British-ruled Caribbean island of Nevis.
So he was a person of color.
No, he's a British guy going to where the people of color live and taking all their shit.
That's kind of the same, right?
Close. He lied about, people don't know if his real age, like I said, 55 or 57, 1755 or 1757, because he says it was 1757, but Caribbean birth records say 1755. Speculation goes that he lies about his age when he moves to New York City, because in New York City,
The 80 cent doesn't exist yet.
it's to get into college, really. Because
You'd be younger?
he didn't, yeah, he claimed to be born 2 years later.
Oh, yeah. That would make him younger if he was born later.
Yes.
You had me all fucked up.
I got
was
you fucked me
oh
up
shit,
after.
am I stupid?
Yeah, why would he do that backwards? Anyways, he did. He said he was 57. I don't know why.
Because he wanted to get with freshmen, bro.
Maybe I did that backwards. Maybe he said he was 55. Doesn't really matter. His speculation around his age, we're just going to go with a certain age at a certain point, and then we're just going to stick with it. Alexander's father was a guy named James Hamilton. He was a drifting trader and son of Alexander Hamilton, the Laird of Cambusketh, Ayrshire, Scotland. A laird, you know what a laird is? I didn't know what this was until I heard.
Is it the stupidest way ever to say Lord?
Yes. It's Lord with a Scottish accent. Someone who owns a large estate. So Alexander Hamilton was born after or named after his grandfather. Rather wealthy man from Scotland, to be honest. Trouble was, for James Hamilton, like his father, he was the fourth son in line for his father's fortune, and he had seven brothers and sisters, so he probably wasn't going to get any of the inheritance. If he did, it wouldn't be very substantial. So James headed to the Caribbean to make his fortune in the sugar and tobacco trade. Caribbean sugar trade and tobacco trade was super lucrative in those days. I read somewhere that the Caribbean islands made more money than all the other colonies combined with sugar and tobacco and probably slaves. I would assume slave trade was in there too.
I mean,
Oh,
yeah, like yeah, that's what everyone did. It was the pastime. You'd hang out with a fat cigar and a sweet tea with your feet kicked up on your favorite black person.
oh my God. Do you know why sugar was so like valuable?
Um, because it's addictive as fuck.
Nah, it's rum. Booze. It's actually
Oh.
liquor. I didn't know that either.
Oh, the thing that isn't addictive.
Yeah.
Okay, I was so wrong.
Nah, it's just that wasn't for sweetening food. It's just they could make fucking rum. Alexander Hamilton's mother was a lady named Rachel Fawcett. She was the daughter of a French physician living in St. Croix, which is another Caribbean island. It was a Danish ruled one, though. And as a teen, Rachel was arranged to be married to a much older man named John Michael. Now, Lavian was either German or Danish merchant. There's not really much about him out there. There's a bit, but um, Lavian, what we do know is he was an abusive husband. But to be honest, I don't really know if like he was more abusive than every other husband at that time. Like I
Yeah.
don't like I'm pretty sure probably every guy beat their wife. Like I don't think that like did he go over and above that? I'm not sure.
Hmm.
Rachel had a child with Lavian around 1745. His name was Peter. In the same year, Rachel's father dies, leaving her quite a hefty estate. So Lavian's abuse gets more sophisticated at this point. Now he's not only flush with a young wife,
He
he's got a
punches her
young
with his pinky out.
he's just moved on to like financial abuse. Like he just takes all her money. She just got a whole huge estate. He's like, "Thank you."
Nice.
She's sick of that guy pretty young, which I would imagine if you're arranged marriage in your early teens, I'm sure that guy wasn't her favorite. And she starts an affair with a guy named Johann Cronenberg about a year after they got married. And then Lavian finds out and has Cronenberg and her imprisoned under Danish law. If you cheat on your husband, you go to jail in those times. It's pretty crazy.
Well, jail or timeout depends.
Depends how far they want to take it, I guess.
Well, depends on how old your wife is.
Yeah, the jail's for the adults.
Yeah.
Go put her in timeout like a man.
Yeah, in 2 years, young lady, you're gonna go to prison. But for now, you're grounded.
So yeah, he finds out, gets him put in jail. Cronenberg is released before her because he's a man, obviously, and he never sees Rachel again. He just says, "Fuck that. That guy's crazy." When she gets released, she heads back to St. Kitts to avoid seeing her abusive husband again. No divorce, she just like runs away. But she also abandons her first kid, Peter, which I was like, well, that's probably not the greatest move, but I mean, did she have much control? I don't know. Like, she probably
I
wasn't allowed
mean,
seeing him.
even if she did entirely, I wouldn't blame her. You tend to love your kids a bit more when they're conceived consensually.
Yeah, that's true. So St. Kitts is a British-owned Caribbean island and where she originally was from, and this is where she meets James Hamilton. So it said they kind of figured out Rachel probably starts living with James Hamilton in 1752, but Lavian didn't divorce her until 1758. So like she was living in sin, the drama. Can you imagine the scandal back then? You know, married woman fraternizing with a wealthyish Scottish man, just a Scottish man. Ugh.
That is pretty gross. And I mean, but that would be gross in 2025 as well. So
That's true. Yeah, she just got out of jail for this and she finds a Scottish. Anyway, so they have two children, one of them Alexander, and the other was 4 years older than Alexander. His name was James Jr. And they made like a nice little family. Not married, but many people consider them to be so. So James, Rachel, Alexander, and his older brother James Jr. all lived together in St. Kitts for a good portion of the time James and Rachel were together. James gets a new job in St. Croix when Alexander's about 8 years old, and he and the family move back to St. Croix, where her legal husband and estranged teenage son both still live. So that's probably awkward. And they seem to coexist in St. Croix for a little bit of time, not for super long, because James Hamilton abandons his family in 1765. He and Rachel have been together for 15 years at this point, and he just gets up and fucks off. So, there's a couple reasons they think he may have gone. One of them is that he just was a piece of shit who just was never satisfied with the amount of money they both had and wanted to make more money and just said, fuck this, I'm out, I don't want kids. The other is that Rachel had wanted to marry James, but since she was already married when they had children, James feared Rachel would be charged with bigamy and sent back to jail. So he just fucked off as a way to like protect her from going to jail, which I don't really buy. Sounds more to protect himself than anyone. She must have known. She had, like, anyways. So they had already been divorced for like 6 or 7 years by the time he fucked off. So like, anyways, whatever. They lived together for 15 years. I feel like that guy just said, I'm done. I'm out. And he never actually came back to ever see like his kids ever again. He just never came back. Just gone forever. Either way, after her first husband stole all of her money and James abandoned her, Rachel is destitute. She sets up a small shop underneath her house to support the family. Alexander takes a job at a local New York merchant's. In February 1768, Rachel and Alexander both contract yellow fever. Alexander survives the disease, but Rachel dies, likely in the same room while Alexander and James both watched. Super sad. And since she's poor, just barely living on a shoestring, the Danish authorities waste no time seizing Rachel's house, and the two boys are left without a home. Alexander and James both become wards of his mother's relatives, a guy named Peter Lytton. In July of that same year, 5 months after living there, Lytton had committed suicide and left the kids orphaned again. So
yeah.
I don't know if Hamilton just like fuck these kids and he just killed himself. Like I don't know if he's like killing people. I don't know if it's him.
I mean, if I found myself back then, I would also kill myself.
There you go.
I need AC, brother.
They describe the suicide scene too as like a very bloody scene, which I find crazy. You think it would just be like he'd hang yourself or some shit, but he'd fucking stab himself, shoot himself in the head. Packing a musket and shooting yourself in the head seems hard.
Well, yeah, so they probably didn't do it. He probably slit his own throat or something.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, that's metal.
That's metal as shit. So thankfully, a friend of Alexander's father, James, Rachel's landlord and businessman living in St. Croix, named Thomas Stevens, takes him under his wing. So he gets to live with that guy. His brother's sent to live with a local carpenter, and he's not really mentioned ever again in the story. Alexander still communicated with him a few times as an adult, but James died at the age of 33, very young. Thomas Stevens, the guy Alexander went to live with, had a son around the same age as Alexander named Edward. Edward and Alexander were best friends. Weirdly enough, Alexander and Edward both look very similar. Very slight, thin-shouldered, red complexion, ginger-haired, blue-eyed, like super Scottish. Scottish as fuck. Short, both handsome, they say, but that doesn't sound handsome to me. He said red hair. So there's a lot of speculation that James Hamilton wasn't even Alexander's father. It was this guy. And that's why he was so happy to, like, James Stevens was so happy to take Alexander under his wing. Could be. Maybe that's why he fucked off. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's not like the other guy's gonna take him either, like Lavian. Like, so he's with this merchant guy. His brother separated. Stevens was a good dude. He put the either 12 or 14-year-old Alexander to work as a clerk for his merchant business. So this is 1769. So you going by his age, he's actually 12. and he was 12 in charge of bookkeeping for Beekman and Kruger, a rather big company from New York. And when I say rather big, I mean like probably one of the bigger ones in America at the time. So like they put a 12-year-old in charge of the books. Like that shit's crazy to me, man. Molly's 12. Like I love her
Yeah,
to
I mean
death.
that's
She's not in
that's a
charge of books.
full-grown man back then.
I guess.
They're probably having a midlife crisis at that point. He just needed to find a career and
Need to change. I need to change it up here. Yeah, I guess so. His mom's already dead. His like uncle's killed himself in front of him. Seen a lot of shit for before like 12 years old.
yeah, he's like the fucking Baudelaire children from Series of Unfortunate Events.
Pretty much, yeah. But this job gives Alexander a bunch of experience running a business, and like he got to see how money worked on like more of a grand scale. And that was like his first showing of how smart he was. And he is a super smart kid. He's smart, really smart guy. You'll see this through his entire life. And by 1772, his ability and engaging manners won him advancement from the bookkeeper to manager. So they like put him fully in charge of the Beekman and Kruger for whenever the guy was out of town. Like Kruger, he was in charge of the St. Croix office, and he'd leave for big stretches at a time. And during those times, Alexander was in charge, and Alexander loved this, and he made them a bunch of money. He was super good at business. And Alexander was a cocky guy. He thought he was the smartest guy in the room, always, even from a young age. I'm smarter than everyone. And he didn't like to be bossed around. He didn't like having a boss. So whenever it would come by to run the business, Alexander would be annoyed, but whatever. So Alexander knew he wasn't going to. He's a poor Caribbean boy. He's not doing anything in the world. He knows that this is probably the peak of his life, and he wants more. He wants to be able to prove himself in different ways. And like I said, he's smart. He's hearing from all these traders. He's hearing all there's rumblings going on about a revolution in the mainland, and he wants a war to break out soon so he can go be a part of it and prove himself there. Because I don't know, man. I don't wish for war ever, but I guess when you have a shitty life like that, maybe war is a good thing. I don't know. Like 15 years old, he's writing letters to his friend Ned Stevens saying that he just wants war. Like he could prove himself. Some historians claim that, oh, this is a different thought completely. So some historians claim that Alexander Hamilton was Jewish, which does that matter? No. But is it kind of funny that they trying to change Michael Lavian his name to Levine and calling him Jewish? Yes, I do think that's funny. I just love how they're just like, he's Jewish. Like, who cares? But he did. There's a reason. There's other reasons too. Like he couldn't go to school in the Caribbean because he was a bastard child. So he went to the Jewish schools. So he did like learn Hebrew and how to do all that kind of stuff. But like, I don't know. Later in life, he says he's Christian, raised his kids Christian, married in a Christian church. I don't know. So it's just so many people like what. There's a whole book about it, like the Jewish life of Alexander Hamilton. All right, so Hamilton's self-taught in a lot of ways because he couldn't really go to school. He collected books and had a pretty decent library of 34 books. I don't know what books he
Yeah,
had. Do you have 34
yeah.
books?
I have more than that, of which I would like to not have.
Okay. I have more than 34 books. I don't have a library at all. But I mean, I guess that time is pretty good.
Well, yeah, I mean, it probably took him like 4 days to read like a page of a book, just because everyone back then was absolutely super fucking stupid.
Hamilton was very smart, ahead of his time in a
No,
lot of ways. If
no.
he's so smart, how come we can't use a microwave? I got you. I feel you.
Yeah, well,
Um,
how come he thought black people weren't people?
well, I guess that's true. But when he's a kid, he would sometimes send poems and letters to be published in the local newspaper. At 15, he wrote a letter to the newspaper about a recent hurricane. The letter was written to his father about the hurricane that had just passed through. The letter starts off by describing the gigantic hurricane in great detail. Then the letter moves into this religious diatribe about how small man is compared to God. I read the letter. I was going to put some quotes in here. It's stupid. I don't like it. But people of St. Croix of the time, they were super impressed. Beekman and Kruger were super impressed. They start to gather a fund to get Alexander off the islands onto the mainland to get educated in college. They see the potential of the kid and they got him to the mainland for no other reason but to help the kid. No reason. I don't believe this. This is how they play it off. It's like a whole bunch of businessmen from the island just put a bunch of funds together, just ship them off so we can get educated. I don't trust history like you. I think there's a better reason. I think he's just super smart and he got into these guys' books and he figured out ways to exploit them and told them send me to the mainland to get educated or I'm going to make you lose your money. I think he leveraged them somehow because he's that smart. He's that guy.
Probably, yeah.
I just don't see. Do you think people back then would have been like, this kid's nice. I like this letters. Let's send him off. Like, I don't think that would happen.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, people are. I'm like I say like that they were super dumb, and they were, but that's only just because people now are dumb too. So overwhelmingly, I think people are the same, and I think that happens.
Okay. If that's true, all of his shitty luck just finally culminated into something super good luck for him. Like luckiest kid in the fucking Caribbean at that point. But whatever, for whatever reason, him getting people of the island to raise funds and send him off to New York to get educated, it's huge for him. He didn't want to throw away his shot. You know what I mean? Didn't want to throw away his shot. So in 1772, Hamilton arrived in Boston. On the boat ride over, he meets another guy, another one of his lifelong friends named Hercules Mulligan, which I'm not going to go into Hercules' life here, but he was the brother of a trader that Hamilton dealt with and was in charge of when he was in charge of Henkel and Kruger. Mulligan ended up being a figure in Hamilton's life. Mulligan was a huge American patriot and would influence Hamilton's eventual patriotism. Mulligan also would introduce many other people to Hamilton that supported their cause for revolution. So Mulligan was parts of the Sons of Liberty, which I'm not going to get into, but like I said, it's a fucking pretty cool part of your history. RJ, you ever hear about this before? Sons of Liberty?
Yeah, it sounds familiar, but I also could just be thinking of the Metal Gear Solid game.
That's fair. But yeah, it's these violentish revolutionaries just actively fighting British monarchy guys years before the war. It's pretty cool stuff. I'm not going to get into it. Maybe one day I'll do a whole episode on them because it's pretty cool. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to mention Hercules. Just on the boat ride over, he starts getting like pushed into revolution, which I love.
Radicalized is the term.
That's the word. If you lose, it's called
He got red,
radical.
white, and blue pilled.
Yeah. It's revolutionary if you win, radicalized if you lose. Because, like, I
Yeah.
bet you they were called terrorists and shit before, like, they were basically the Taliban before fucking. Anyways, so
Yeah, they were sending fucking tapes to King George of them cutting off the heads of dudes who were drinking tea and shit.
yeah, King George is like, that's not how you do it. And he cuts off his own guy's head, like fucking
Yeah.
pussies. So Hamilton's originally sent to Elizabethtown, New Jersey, to attend Elizabethtown Academy. Elizabethtown was a prep school intended to fill in Hamilton's knowledge gaps to eventually attend the College of New Jersey, which is now Princeton. Hamilton's super ambitious, wants to start college right away. He's 15. College of New Jersey needs him to finish his prep school. I don't know why he would make himself younger. It makes no sense. He must have tried to make himself older. Hamilton, always the ambitious bastard, decides to go elsewhere then. Like, you guys don't want me to come to college now? Fuck you, I'm leaving. So in the fall of 1773, Alexander travels to New York to enroll in King's College, the same college that Hercules Mulligan had gone to. King's College is now Columbia University. Miles Cooper, the college president, didn't mind if Hamilton tried to complete his studies early and quickly. So Hamilton's either 16 or 18. I'm just going to say he's 16, and that's where we're going to keep going with the story here at that age. So at King's College,
I think he just wanted everyone to think he was just a little baby because that way he could get away with everything.
I'm just a little
Yeah.
boy. But
Yeah.
that maybe, but like you said, by 16, he's probably like, why didn't you
Or
finish
maybe he
college
just like shit in his pants and he wanted the excuse for that.
yet? Could be.
He's just like, listen, only a fool uses the adult toilet. That's
So
shitting an adult is for the birds.
for the burrs, sir. Okay. Have you ever watched Hamilton?
No, and I assure you, I never will.
Oh my God, you know he references to Hamilton. It's so many, it's amazing.
Proud of you. I wouldn't know.
It's the best. Okay,
Is it the shitting the pants thing? Was that in the
that's
movie?
why I asked. Have you ever seen it? Because it was you said it. Um,
And
So
now, whatever the fuck his name is, he does a rap about just having diarrhea in his britches.
it's actually well done. I don't know. It's fun little watch. I don't know. It's
I can
pretty,
believe it. You're never gonna get me to give a fuck about it. Not that
yeah.
you are trying to. I just mean in a general sense.
Yeah, yeah. What I will say from doing all this research and watching it with Molly, it's like very 90% accurate, which is crazy. And then 2 hours stuff this whole thing in a musical format. To me, it's pretty good. I
Yeah,
can't believe it.
weirdly, conservatives love it, and I say weirdly because they hate people of color. So
Yeah. And
that's
it's
a very
the
strange thing.
the cast is like should be a bunch of white dude, but that's maybe two white guys in the entire cast. You know what I mean?
Well, they already did that one. I think it was called 1776, where it was just all white dudes.
Yeah, exactly. Just reinventing it for the 2015, I
Yeah.
guess.
No, I think that's great. I think we should do lots more things that have white people with people of color,
Okay.
like Schindler's List.
Just making
Yeah, we should
just
make a Schindler's List musical with Lin-Manuel Miranda as Schindler, and he raps and saves Jews from the evil Nazi guy who was Ray Fiennes in the movie, but in this one he'll be played by Idris Elba.
you're making the Nazis straight up black, like
Or whatever. I
whatever.
mean,
Yeah,
some
okay,
of them could
Idris
be
Elba.
Hispanic and
Okay, I saw the outrage when people were threatening to make Idris Elba 007. I can't imagine that's going to happen when you make him the super Nazi.
no, they'll get mad. Because that's what they are. That's, if anything, that's just full mask off. They're like, all right, it was one thing when you were gonna make him a British spy, but if you're gonna make him my grandfather,
Yeah. Imagine how fucking funny that would be if someone was actually outraged on that. Nazis were white.
they got 2017. The video game Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus came out, and in the advertisement, it said, "Get ready to punch Nazis," and people got mad
Why?
because they're fucking Nazis.
Ah, okay. So you mean Nazis got mad?
They're like, why are we going to make this political? Oh, the World War II game about murdering Nazis? I don't know. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to inject politics into this.
Into this entire thing about politics? Okay.
Yeah.
In college, Hamilton is doing pretty well. He's out there, but he's also out there protesting and stuff. He's putting out a bunch of anti-loyalist pamphlets, but he's like publishing them anonymously. A weird thing that I'm not going to bring up much, but I will say it here is Hamilton, they call him the American Napoleon. I heard that in a lot of things because him and Napoleon had a lot in common. And just as like an example of that, I'm not going to give a bunch of examples throughout the whole thing, is that's how Napoleon got noticed too, is like pamphleteering in at an early age as well. And
Do
there's
you think
little,
pamphlets were like, that was like influencers back then?
yes, that's exactly how I was gonna. It's like putting a TikTok video out and fucking whoever's got the best ones, like people were reading.
Oh, God. That sucks because that is what it is too.
Yeah,
Because, like, I don't know if you've seen that, the mayoral candidate for New York, he's been all over the news. Zoran Mamdani.
no,
Did that hit your radar out there?
no.
He's been all over the place here because he's a democratic socialist. He's just straight up like, and he beat our former governor of New York, who decided, hey, well, I can't be governor anymore because I had to resign in shame for being a sex pest and corruption. So I'll be the mayor of New York. And he absolutely creamed him in the primaries, and it's just so shameful. And so now everyone's losing their mind because God forbid a socialist be in any kind of political power. He's mayor of New York. Why do these people in Texas give a fuck?
They do because it's a
They
Democrat.
Right, and he's Arab and Islamic.
That'll do it.
Yeah, they're ready to set fire to everything over this. It's crazy. Actual US Congress people have been posting about him. There's one, I could show you a tweet. He's talking to like somebody doing like an interview and like talking about like the food that his family would make, and he's eating rice with his hands like
Yeah.
people will eat rice. And the actual congressperson said, "This is not how a civilized American person eats. Go back to your third world country."
Did they put a picture of Donald Trump on the bottom eating pizza with a fork and knife during his election run?
They should.
Fucking what? Your country's so fucked now.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like comical. Like it's funny to
But
me.
there's guys like this that are running and winning because, they're not fucking fake idiots who are totally distanced from reality of a regular person. And he got there and he is there because he just comes off so well in fucking everything he does, dude. He was getting harassed by this lunatic influencer from New York, and they were like basically insulting him. They're like, "What? You married to a white woman? You what is it? Like what do you work with? Cussing and everything." And he was absolutely flawless. Like more than Obama. He was better
Wow.
than, yeah, he was incredible. And he's like this all over the place. And that's why he is where he is, because he plays the best online. I mean, yes, his policies are great, but
Well, good
I don't
for
know.
like, but
Yeah.
that's like a bright spot in your otherwise trash box country right now. So I kind of like to hear this.
Well, AOC's like that too.
Anyways, we could talk
She
about
endorsed him. Yeah.
yeah. She's great too. I do enjoy her.
Anyways, what all I was saying is that they still do that now because you see the clips of them online, like
For
doing
sure.
the
And that's what
performative shit.
it all goes together because they are the pamphleteers of our time, right? Like influencing public opinion through media is not a new thing. It's just it's evolved into what it is now. And this is what these guys are doing back then, which is just putting out pamphlets like fuck the British. And it worked. It's starting to work for them anyway.
I wonder what the ones who had really little dicks did, though, because there were no bow ties or Fox News for them to be on.
They just amassed another slave and beat him. I don't know.
I guess,
Saved up.
maybe. Yeah.
Hamilton's first big essay that he published was defending the Boston Tea Party. Not long after that, he makes his first public speech in front of a bunch of protesters. The speech gets him a standing ovation and gives him a modicum of fame at a young age. He's a well known speaker for the Patriot movement. But his college was a loyalist college. So, just at the precipice of the breakout of the Revolutionary War, some Patriot protesters were trying to get into King's College to get to the college president, Miles Cooper. Siding with the Patriot cause, Hamilton was still split on this offensive by the protesters. Hamilton was a loyal man to Miles Cooper because he let him get into college at 16 and he owed a lot to Cooper. So he went out there, used his power of speaking to stop these protesters from kicking in some doors, even though they had like opposite political leanings as him. He didn't stop them completely, but he gave this guy enough time to escape, which is one of his first major stories about his speaking engagements, which is kind of cool. They're ready to kill this guy, and he just helped this guy get out, even though he was opposite of what he thought. So yeah, Alexander wants to be part of this war that's about to come, and he's in college. He knows that he can't really be a part of it yet. It's starting to break out. He knows the war's coming, right? So Alexander meets a guy around this time when he's in college named Aaron Burr. Aaron Burr was born in 1756, so he's just a little bit older than Alexander Hamilton. He and Hamilton had similar upbringings, but not exactly the same. Like they're both orphans, but Burr had like a rich family to take care of him after his parents died. Hamilton, poor uncle, blew his brains out or his own throat. So a little bit different. They're both super smart dudes, though. Actually finished his college by the age of 16 and then went to theological studies until he was about 18 at the College of New Jersey. Hamilton wanted to do the same thing, but the College of New Jersey wouldn't let him in. So I don't know. I guess being rich pulls a lot of weight in every era. Having a lot of money is going to let you get into college a lot better. Do you think it would be more beneficial now to be super rich or more beneficial then to be super rich?
Now, because nobody back then was as rich as you can be.
Yeah, but I mean, it scales, right? Like the richest
I
of
mean,
rich
maybe
guys.
but like you can't compare. Like it's more so like access to resources. Like you can be so many more places now.
Yeah.
You can own so much more now than you ever could back then. So
But like,
like maybe like money, yeah, maybe somebody was the equivalent of a billionaire back then, but like what did it mean? You know what I mean?
yeah, I guess that's true. I was just like thinking more, you're not scrutinized as much, so you could do whatever the fuck you want. Like you're not constantly being followed and watched. You could just be a super rich guy and just like Like you could fucking kill everyone in a little
A
town because you
South
didn't like them.
African Nazi just stole the entirety of the Social Security data of the entire United States. So they can still do whatever they want without any oversight.
I guess so. I guess it's true. So yeah, I think you're right because yeah, you could be everywhere. You could have influence in like every part of the world now.
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
before you could lose your colony.
Internet service.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. I was just
Not like, and you know, one of these might be more morally reprehensible than the other, but I don't really think owning even 1,000 black people will compare to that.
that's true. Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think nowadays is yeah. But I'm not sure. Okay, so Hamilton meets Burr. They're kind of like running in the same circles. I'm not really sure if they knew each other in their early 20s, but they knew of each other for sure. So 1775, as soon as the Revolutionary War breaks out, Hamilton joins the New York Volunteer Militia, and he's like 18 at this time. The volunteer militia, like I said, doesn't make him drop out of college. They would just run drills before and after school. And a bunch of his college friends join the militia as well. And Hamilton does what he does through the rest of his life. He studies war. As soon as he joins the militia, he starts to study and he reads all the books he can find on war. Hamilton just wanted to be the smartest guy, like I said. So he would do that shit, which I find cool. Like that's really smart to do, like go learn about. But he would also do other things, which is very fucking smart for his time. He would go out to the pubs and find some old war dudes, some old military guys, and just be like, "Hey, what's war like? Explain it to me. Tell me more." And he'd sit there and write down their experiences and stuff. So he's like learning from like books, and then he's just like going to meet people and learning from them too about war, about the realities of war and how it like shaped them and shit like that. Which I feel like that's gonna give you a better like feeling for war than like a book could. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I wonder if it's something with the last name Hamilton, because there was a kid I knew in 6th grade who was absolutely fucking obsessed with everything the military. I mean,
Okay,
like,
yeah.
he definitely had autism, but the coincidence is there.
Okay. Maybe it is. Maybe he's related. Maybe he's got the gene, the fucking
I probably same exact name.
yeah. He would just never be satisfied about the subject, so he found different ways of learning what he was into at the time. Because of this, Hamilton, like I said, always thought he was the smartest, and that was the shit that got him in trouble later on in life. So yeah, he studies up so much that he ends up getting appointed as an officer in the militia. And I think that's just because he was going to college. Like I think it's because he could read. Like he could read orders that he got to be an officer. I don't think it's just because he was super smart. I think anybody that was in his college age would have gotten like an officership. So his first mission is to do a raid on some British cannons, which takes a little brigade in there. Not only do they win, but they seize all these cannons. And then these seized cannons become an artillery brigade, the Continental Army, to which Alexander ends up being the captain for. So, and just like that, couple fights in, Alexander's in charge of a full-blown artillery brigade in the Continental Army. So Hamilton's getting the war that he wanted. He wanted to fight in the war. He's getting it now. So at this time, he drops out of college. He's a college dropout. Never does finish college. His brigade did really well over the next couple of years, and he's recognized by many people. His success gets him noticed by the general of the Continental Army, a Mr. General George Washington. I don't know if you ever heard of him. First time I ever heard of him today. March 1777, Washington gathers up Hamilton, has a little meeting with him, and he offers him the job of aide de camp or like chief of staff. This would have made Hamilton 21 years old. Hamilton accepts the offer.
Wow, an elder statesman.
Yeah. He'd have been offered many jobs by many other generals, like major generals in the army, but he rejected them all because he wanted to be on the front lines. But this is George Washington. He's not going to say no to George Washington. He's like the leader of the entire fucking revolution here. So he takes the job. He knows it'd be dumb to say no. He knows that Washington's super important, especially if the revolutionaries win the war. Washington was also a smart enough guy to realize that Hamilton was a fucking super huge asset, super smart little young man, and he can shape him the way you want to, give him a little opportunity now, and you can pretty much make him your partner. After this promotion, Hamilton is a lieutenant colonel. Not bad for a Caribbean orphan. Pretty crazy, if you ask me. Probably not a lot of guys did that. Washington describes the job of aide de camp as, quote, persons in whom entire confidence must be placed and it requires men of abilities to execute the duties and propriety and dispatch. So meaning he put all of his trust into like Hamilton, gave him all that responsibility, more responsibility than that. I'm sure Hamilton asked for more responsibility because that's the kind of fucking ambitious asshole this guy was. Like literally the most ambitious person I've ever read about. Like Hamilton would be writing Washington's correspondence, setting out orders. He was even being trusted to make decisions on Washington's behalf when Washington wasn't around. Like he was signing Washington's name and shit like that to like battle fucking shit. That's crazy to me. Washington wasn't even mad about it either. He knew he was doing it. He was happy about it. They had the greatest working relationship. They were like very good partners. Honestly, without Alexander Hamilton, Washington probably wouldn't have got as far as he did with the war. Hamilton gave him so many ideas on how to like fight the British, who were like a superpower at the time. You know, America was nothing. Their army was, I don't know, I think it's at its peak at 58,000 people. The British army had like million, probably hundreds of thousands, plus like warship brigades and shit. Like they were crazy. Hamilton didn't particularly like Washington as a person, though, which I find fun. He just didn't like him. Too much of a bad temper. And he was also his boss, which Hamilton hated having a boss. He wanted to be in charge.
Yeah, that'll do.
Probably was smarter than Washington. He probably was the smartest guy in the room when Washington was around. But Washington had the whole package. Like he was the charming one. He was a great politician, if that makes sense. Alexander Hamilton would be a great statesman. Like he was good at organizing, and they meshed really well together. In 1779, early 1780, while in the employ of General Washington, Hamilton meets his soon-to-be wife, Elizabeth Schuyler, or Eliza. She was a rich girl with a rich dad. Her dad was a guy named Philip Schuyler. He was one of the most rich and powerful men in New York and served as a major general in the Continental Army. Her being rich and her dad being super influential is one of the reasons Hamilton liked her. He also liked her because she was around his age and they hung around. But yeah, her being rich really helped Mr. Ambitious Hamilton. Eliza had a couple sisters. Apparently, one of the other sisters really had a crush on Hamilton as well. There's letters out there where Alexander's corresponding with her in a flirtatious way, but I don't know. Hamilton was a huge flirt in general. Before he was married, Martha Washington named her feral tomcat Hamilton after him because he was out banging all sorts of ladies. And that's true. That's a fact. That's a real thing.
Just he's that closely associated with pussy.
Yeah, yeah. Little Scottish dude, of course. Either way, by the end of 1780, Hamilton and Schuyler are married. They had 8 children over their marriage. Hamilton made some important friends in the war, one of them being the Marquis de Lafayette and the other being John Lawrence. Is Lafayette a big character in your history? Like, do you guys hear about that a lot? Do you remember?
No, I don't. I don't remember. I know it is a name of dozens of towns in the country. So
Yeah,
makes sense.
Um, yeah, we'll talk about him a little bit because he's very important to the war. I didn't understand your guys' like revolution and shit like that until I did this. Now I understand.
Your fucking revolution.
We didn't have one. We're pussies. We just made them give up in the 80s. We're just like, fine, you guys are by yourselves. You guys can be independent. Yeah, so Hamilton and Washington are working really well together. War's going really well for them. Like, not well for them, but it's going good enough where you see that their partnership's working out really well. Hamilton, though, is sitting there every day wanting to be back on the front line. He did not like being Washington's bitch, to tell you the truth. Like, he thought the best place to make a name for himself back on the battlefield. He didn't want to sit back in some office sending troops out to the front line. He would beg Washington for a command every single day almost. And he wanted to be in charge of some men, fight a real war. Washington thought him too important to the cause to be out there with the men. Washington needed to promote people of higher rank than Hamilton. That's what he kept saying. You're not high enough rank to be a general. Somebody else, not you. Mostly Washington relied way too much on the young man to let him go and risk his life because Hamilton would have done that. One of the big reasons Washington keeps Hamilton around is because he spoke French, like accentless French.
Interesting.
The French army was supporting the Americans during the Revolution. This is where Lafayette is super important. He was the go-between between the French and getting the French to send troops. This is something I didn't realize. Never really got that. Well, obviously the French is helping the Americans because like British were super huge. They're sending massive amounts of troops to help the Americans. Like I did not know that at all. Yeah, like I said, Continental Army's pretty small in general, enlisted just under 50,000 people at its peak, but never really deployed more than 13,000 at a time anywhere. So the French were helping bridge that gap. So in mid-February 1781, Hamilton and Washington get in a fight over something stupid. I guess Hamilton was supposed to deliver a message to somebody else in the same fucking Capitol building or whatever the fuck, and it took him over 10 minutes to get back. And Washington had like a diva fit, like, do you know who I am? I'm the fucking general of the Continental Army. Why did you make me wait for 10 minutes? And Hamilton being Hamilton, and they got along with each other. One of the best things about the relationship is they're very honest with each other, and Hamilton loses it on him. He fucking fights back. He's pissed. I don't want to work for you anymore, and he quits. Fuck you. I'm out. You don't respect me. You don't gotta give me my own command. It's really what he wanted. He's so sick of being a little bitch boy. So he leaves. After a couple days, Washington was feeling the loss of Hamilton. He's starting to have to write his notes again, and they sound probably like a fucking moron. Me want troops over front line. And everyone's like, what? They missed Hamilton. So Washington knew that he was a hothead. So one thing everyone knew about Washington, I didn't know that he was big emotions. So he sends out a messenger asking for Hamilton's forgiveness. Hamilton said he wouldn't come back to work for him unless he gave him a command. And that's what Washington did. Washington took his little 24-year-old bitch boy back and gave him a command.
Damn.
He got to be in charge of a artillery company, fought in the last major ground fight of the Revolutionary War, the Siege of Yorktown.
Yeah, we learn about this shit when we're children,
I don't know. I'm just
and
asking.
evidently not in a way where we retain any of it, considering how apt we are to vote poorly.
So he participated in the considered probably the last major war of the Revolutionary War, and he was super successful in this war. He was in charge of 3 battalions who were fighting alongside some French battalions. He lost very few soldiers, while the French lost a lot of soldiers. The assault was successful, and it contributed to the surrender of General Lord Charles Cornwallis. And his
Wallace.
yeah, isn't that a wicked fucking name for a bad
I
guy?
know, like, oh yeah, for a bad guy. Yeah, it sounds like he's got like a big mustache that he can like twirl.
Like the British are the bad guys in this, right? Is that
Yeah,
how
yeah,
this
yeah.
is? Like, is this real? Like, as time has passed, are the British still the bad guys in this?
I don't know, man. They were pretty fucked in that Mel Gibson movie.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah, they really made them seem like Nazis.
Black Nazis. Yeah, so that's pretty much the end of the war after Yorktown. The war went on for another couple of years, small little fights until they signed the Treaty of Paris. When the war's over, US was a weird country. There's now 13 independent British colonies, but from what I understand, the colonies were all like their own little mini countries within like a bigger like unified country that really didn't have that lots of power. They just kind of they're all like a team. It wasn't they're all just mini countries.
The states,
Yeah, like they're colonies.
they still are.
I guess, but now you have a central government that like taxes you and you know what I mean?
That's about all it does. Sure as fuck doesn't govern.
Well, they go like kill brown people in your name. So that's good.
Yeah, I asked them to do that. So
Yeah.
that's exactly. Thank God. Thank fuck for the federal government and the important service of murdering children or giving money to countries that murder children.
Yeah. Yeah. They're doing good. They're doing God's work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess it's kind of still like that, but it was before there was no real big unified country. They were just like the team. Like, what's his nuts? Thomas Jefferson considered himself like the king of Virginia. You know what I mean? Anyways. So after Yorktown, Hamilton returns to New York, resigns his commission in March 1782. 25-year-old at this point. The war's still winding down, but Alexander wasn't needed on the front anymore. He didn't even want to work for Washington anymore. He's still there. Should I keep going?
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. I think I just jostled my camera.
I got you. So the war's basically done. So he goes to study law, and after 6 months of self-teaching, he passes the bar and begins to practice law in a brand new country, which I find funny because like they probably six laws. So it took him 6 months to learn all the laws of America. So he opens up a law firm in New York and practices. Hamilton continues to be political even before the end of the war. Like he wanted that stronger central government I was talking about. He'd been criticizing wartime Congress. They had no way of collecting taxes from the states that supported them, and they're relying on the states volunteering money and donations from Europe and the French army to like pay for their army and pay for stuff that they've like already prepaid for. So in 1782, not long after Hamilton starts to practice law, he's selected by New York to be a delegate to the Confederation Congress. Jesus Christ. I don't know why I couldn't read that word. This is going to be a wicked uncut. You're welcome, everyone.
Yeah, full foreskin, baby.
Full Richard Mumblemouth. Hamilton's political views aren't exactly the same as everyone else in the Congress. His views, like I said, the country should have like a strong central government. He wanted to be able to collect taxes and bring debt into the hands of the federal government. And he also wanted federal laws to supersede the laws of individual states. To him, building a country like this would be easier. Like you could all band together, make common currency, all that kind of stuff. A lot of the colonies didn't really want that. Hamilton knew there's a lot of work to be done in this regard, trying to get people to do this stuff, to unite everyone. So while in Congress, the young country of the United States had a problem, a bigger problem than trying to unite everyone. It was now the unemployed soldiers from the Revolution. They're all posted in Newburgh, New Jersey, and they hadn't been paid for nearly 8 months. So without a strong government to like tax, there's no way to get them to paid. So these guys are pissed and they want their money. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Hamilton and other congressmen tried to use this as leverage to enforce taxation of the states, something that's called the Newburgh Conspiracy. Once he convinced some of the officers to pressure General Washington to enforce a federal taxation, Washington, instead of like starting a tax for everyone, he just goes down to the soldiers and personally calms them down. He was that guy. He was so charming. He went down and said, "Don't worry about it. China's still cool. You know what I mean? Used to be cool. Washington's still cool. We'll pay you later. Don't worry." So the army disbanded after Washington's speech, but that didn't stop a different branch of the army coming to Philadelphia and demanding their pay from Congress. So they stormed Congress. Hamilton flees with the rest of Congress to Princeton. He suggests they go to Princeton, which they do. And at Princeton, this is where Hamilton is called to revise the Articles of the Confederation. These revisions would contain many features of your modern Constitution now. Stuff like federal government, checks and balances, 3 levels of government, whatever, ability to collect taxes, raise an army.
Not anymore.
Oh, separation of powers, legislative, executive, judicial branches. Funny part for me is Rhode Island was one of the biggest assholes during this whole time while Washington's trying to make a country. Rhode Island was the ones always being like, fuck you. Like, Rhode Island's nothing now. Isn't that like your smallest little state? Probably has 2 electoral votes.
Well, I think that there's an interesting concept that I can display here. So, the entire state of Rhode Island, the population is 1.1 million, which is would be like a massive city, you know? And the square mileage is 1,500 miles. And the population of Wyoming is 580,000. And
It's got a
they
huge.
are 97,000 square miles.
I didn't know Wyoming had less population than Rhode Island.
Wyoming has less population than a lot of even mid-sized cities. Like
Great.
that half of the entire state of Wyoming's population is the same as the population of the city that lives 2 hours west of me.
That's fun.
Mine is more than a quarter. Syracuse is basically a quarter of Wyoming.
Just one New York, smaller city of New York.
In 25 square miles.
So yeah, I just love that Rhode Island's like, fuck you. The whole time they're being assholes. So after the whole thing with Hamilton trying to use the army as leverage to try and get taxation going, because he knows that money is a necessity, especially in a new country, Washington gives him a nice stern warning saying, quote, "The army is a dangerous instrument to play with." So he knows that Hamilton's fuck with him, and he still doesn't give him shit because he loves his little wonder boy Hamilton. Hamilton hated being in Congress, I would assume because he quits in 1783, not even a year and a half in. Returns to New York, starts to practice defending many British people left over from the war, many loyalists. He was that kind of guy. He actually, him and Alexander Burr, I don't know if I mentioned this later, but I'm going to say now, him and Alexander Burr were actually the defense counsel, co-defense counsel for the first murder case in the U.S. Hamilton got the guy off. I think I do say it after, but yeah, they won the
Whoa,
case.
that's a weird way they did court back then.
Yeah. In 1784, Hamilton founds the Bank of New York, which is still going in some form. It's been bought up by different banks, but it's still on the New York Stock Exchange, BNY, Bank of New York. The longest running bank in American history, one of the longest running in the world. During the next couple of years, the U.S. is still trying to figure itself out. From May 25th to September 17th, 1787, 12 of the 13 colonies gather for a constitutional convention held in Philadelphia. The Constitutional Convention was to address the weaknesses in the Articles of Confederation, which was the first governing document of the U.S., and create a new, stronger constitution. The new constitution would ensure a more effective national government to unite the states and bring economic stability.
250 years later, it is still trying to figure itself out.
True. You know, they still mention in the Supreme Court rulings like Alexander Hamilton. Like he still gets brought up to this day.
Yep.
Anyway, so if you
Yep,
want to
and I bet they wipe their ass with any and all of the opinions that he had that they don't agree with.
probably 100%. The one colony that didn't show up, you guessed it, Rhode Island. 55 delegates across the 12 colonies were selected, and Hamilton was there representing New York. They only needed 2/3 majority to get this thing passed. First day of the Constitutional Convention, he wasn't actually a super huge part of the convention. He was actually off on business while he's there. He gives a 6-hour speech trying to convince more states that a central government was the way to go. Mostly fell on deaf ears, but 6 hours. Imagine 6 hours. Like I go off for 2 hours and RJ wants to kill me, and I let him talk. You know what I mean? 6 hours of listening to some guy. Goddamn.
Fuck that shit.
One of the proposals in his speech was to have a life-term Senate and a life-term president, which was super controversial at the time. It made everybody think that Alexander Hamilton was a monarchist. They didn't just fight off a monarchy to have another one. Just because you're president doesn't mean you're not king if you're doing it for life. Alexander was so controversial that the other two delegates from New York left the convention early. This didn't stop a new constitution to be drafted and signed by a few of the colonies. Hamilton wasn't even representing the state of New York anymore because there were enough delegates, but he still signed the Constitution as an individual, not as a member of the Congress, which I find fun. Hamilton rallied against all the other states to ratify the Constitution, some states fewer than others. To defend the new Constitution, Hamilton recruited John Jay and James Madison to write the Federalist Papers. The Federalist Papers are a series of 85 essays defending the proposed Constitution. John Jay wrote 5 of them, then got sick. James Madison wrote 21, I believe. And then the other 51 were written by Hamilton in a 6-month span. These Federalist Papers are still used today when interpreting the Constitution in the Supreme Court or other court filings. They were published anonymously under the name Publius. He published some of the essays under the name Caesar, but people didn't like hearing from a king, so he changed it to Publius, which I guess is another Greek fucking whatever.
Bitch.
Alexander was a prolific writer. Throughout his life, he wrote so much. There's so many things out there written by Alexander Hamilton. That's why this is longer than it probably should be. One historian said that Hamilton wrote so much, he must have written the most anyone could have written in 47 years of life, which is crazy. In 1789, the first elections were held, and George Washington was elected as president unanimously. The first vice president was a guy named John Adams. The way the vice president was picked back then was the guy who got the second most votes in the election, not the guy you ran with. So this is a super awkward way of having your second in charge. Like you just beat a person in the election, to be your second in command has to be like the guy who got the, like imagine Kamala being VP to this guy right now. That'd be fucking
fucking rock. Yeah, that would
think
be
that would
so
rock?
great. he would hate her so much.
Yeah, he would fucking definitely hate her so much. The problem is that sometimes when people get elected that way, the president didn't like the VP and they would shut them out of all the fucking like meetings and stuff like that. So I think they changed it for that
I
reason.
mean, that would be just as useful as JD Vance is now.
Yeah, probably. Washington asks Hamilton to be a Secretary of the Treasury. Alexander started the Bank of the United States, which was modeled after the Bank of England. After the war, the US was in a bunch of debt to other countries, mainly France. And if it wasn't for France, the US probably wouldn't be a country today, and the UK would still be the ruler. I find that funny because everyone calls France a bitch after World War II, but like, they probably wouldn't exist without France. So I like that. Yeah, the whole war, they're sending troops to help out with the war efforts. But in doing this, they're basically borrowing money from the Frenchmen. So by forming a central bank and taking on all the debts of the states, this would make the US more powerful in negotiations with other country because now they have like a monetary system where they can pay the people back. Many people at the time were opposed to a central bank. They didn't see what Alexander saw. Like nobody really understood what he was doing. He was 100 years ahead of his time. People say understood and quote his stuff like later in life, like later in history, 100 years later, where they're like, oh, this was a great idea. Having a national bank taking on the debt allows the U.S. to start enforce and create taxes. So, and being able to lend money and allowing banks to take on debts also keeps an economy going, especially when they owed all sorts of money to soldiers and everybody else. So, one person who was opposed to taking on the national debt was Thomas Jefferson of Virginia. Thomas Jefferson was the exact opposite as Hamilton. They were not friends, they did not like each other. He was the Secretary of State at the same time as Hamilton was Secretary of Treasury. So, they both worked for Washington, they both hated each other. Jefferson wanted a smaller central government. He wanted the states to have more power than the actual main government because he thought America was so huge that everyone in America should just be farmers. Like everyone's going to make their money be super loaded farmers. That's just how we're going to work it. Hamilton saw it opposite. He saw it like we're all going to make bigger cities. We're going to be modeling ourselves after kind of what Britain's doing now. They're going through their industrial revolution right now. They're doing really well. You see how much money they're pouring in, and America's just ripe for that. Jefferson also wanted the capital of the US to be in Virginia. So to get Thomas Jefferson to agree to making a central bank, he had to sit down with him and make a deal, passing the act for the central bank. And then he would persuade the rest to move the capital closer to Virginia. And that's why the capital is in DC now, and why the state's economic system had taken off to what it is today. No one really knows what was said during that meeting to like change Jefferson's mind about the whole thing because all he got was the capital being in DC, and then Alexander Hamilton got fucking national debt. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think they equate, but he convinced him anyway.
Yeah.
Now, the reason there's a two-party system in the US is because of the difference of opinion that Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson had on how the country should be run. If you look at the Constitution, there's no two parties mentioned anywhere in your Constitution. This is just because they had different ideas. Jefferson wanted small government, more power to the states, agrarian-based, state-run militias. Hamilton wanted central government and industrial-based, national army, national navy. People agreed with both of them. Lots of people. And this is how the two-party system starts to form. So Hamilton starts a party called the Federalist Party. The Federalist Party mirrored Hamilton's central government views, and the other party out there at the time was the Democratic Republicans holding Jefferson's beliefs. Hamilton also established the U.S. Mint. So he started getting a monetary system out there. In 1792, after much discussion on how money should be in the states, the Coinage Act was passed and the U.S. Mint is created. He created the tax service. He created customs service. Alexander Hamilton is the father of the American economic system. That's what's on the $10 bill. He accomplished a lot as Secretary of the Treasury. And then in 1793, war broke out between France and Britain. The U.S. already had a treaty with the French from their war with the British, but the U.S. was like cool with Britain now, and they had been for years. Like, we trade with them. They're our biggest trading partner. So Washington and his cabinet got together to see how they should handle the war. Hamilton wanted Washington to stay neutral because the Brits were now a huge trading partner. Like I said, a few members thought that Washington should side with France and help go to war. because not so long ago, the French were there for the little baby American country. Washington sides with Hamilton, like he always does. And they decide to stay neutral. So John Jay goes to France to make a little treaty. He writes the Jay Treaty and declared its neutrality. And if you read it, the Jay Treaty, it sounds very pro-English. It doesn't sound neutral at all.
Mm.
Hamilton has an affair from the summer of 1791 until about the summer of 1792. He's working away from New York and Philadelphia. In 1791, Hamilton would have been in his late 30s. So a 23-year-old woman named Maria Reynolds approaches Hamilton in his Philadelphia house. She tells
An old
Hamilton,
maid.
yeah, she tells Hamilton that her husband, a guy named James Reynolds, had abandoned her in Philadelphia, and he was very abusive, so she wasn't mad about it, but she didn't have any money, and she was coming to Hamilton to get some money because she knew he was a New Yorker, and someone told her that he was very good to New Yorkers and he would help out someone in need every time. So he's sure, I'll give you some money. And she gave him her address, and he's like, I'll bring it to your house personally. The $30 I'm going to bring you, which I guess would have been a lot of money back then. So he walks it over to her boarding house. When he gets there,
He climbs in his Kia Sportage and
Is that how you say
cruises
it?
over.
Sportage.
I mean, yeah, as far as I know, it's Sportage, but I mean, you
Okay.
guys might say it fancier.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, so he goes, he brings her the $30. She invites him into her room, which is in a boarding house. I don't know if you remember boarding houses from when we talked about that in Jack the Ripper, but
Oh
that's
yeah,
just a bunch of people fucking sleeping in the same
sleeping
room.
on ropes. Yep.
So yeah, he just bangs her out in the boarding house. Little known to Hamilton that James Reynolds, Maria's husband, it was in on this affair the whole time. Once the couple fucks are in the bag, James confronts Hamilton with the fact that he knew about the affair. And if you don't pay me $1,000, I'm gonna go tell your wife back in New York. So Hamilton pays up, breaks off the affair a year later, which I find fun too. Like, he gives him the money and go. And James Reynolds, to be fair, he's like, you can keep fucking my wife as long as you keep paying me, and he did for about a year. So yeah, November of that year, James Reynolds gets arrested and tells authorities that he has information about how the Secretary of the Treasury has been misusing his power. He has been paying off my wife not to tell his wife that they've been banging. So when confronted by then Democratic Republican Congressman and future President of the United States, James Monroe, Hamilton immediately admits to the affair. Yep, I definitely did it. The accusation was bad enough, but the criminal part that James Reynolds accused Hamilton of was that he was using government money to pay off his mistress. So Secretary of Treasury is taking your money that we're having a hard time getting right now and paying mistress to bang. Hamilton proved this not to be true to James Monroe, but his reputation's diminished. Didn't do anything illegal, though. It's proven. Documents show that he was taking his own personal money. The whole affair was kept secret from his wife, and the documentation about that was like kind of like hush hush. You know what I mean? Like, just shh, don't tell anything. I never paid. The affair's done. I didn't use government money. Just, can we keep this to ourselves? And everyone was cool with that. And Hamilton's allowed to continue doing his job. So Hamilton had the first ever governmental sex scandal. I love it.
Crazy.
Many scholars believe that this is one of the reasons Hamilton is the only founding father that didn't become president, or one of the few founding fathers that didn't become president. So Hamilton's wife suffers a miscarriage sometime in the mid 1794s. So this prompts Hamilton to resign from Washington's cabinet, move home to be close to his wife and family.
Did you just say the 1794s?
Yeah.
Were there multiple 1794s that
Yep.
I'm not aware of? Is that how his age got all fucked up?
Yeah. Yeah. So he goes back to New York, resumes his law practice. Doesn't mean he's still not well involved in politics, but he's still the leader of the Federalist Party, and he still talks with Washington as an advisor. He even helps Washington write his farewell address, which I didn't know this was a big thing. That Washington surprised everyone retiring. Like, everyone thought he was just going to continue being president for a long time, and he passed power on without, like, that's probably the most impressive thing, that he didn't just like try to become king. You know what I mean? He just seceded power
Yeah.
without any so Hamilton helps him write his farewell address, which was apparently pretty fantastical. I don't know. I read it. I'm like, cool, fair. So after George Washington retires in 1796, John Adams becomes the second president, and Thomas Jefferson becomes his vice president. This was before there were two parties represented in the election, so Jefferson just got the second most electoral votes. John Adams was a Federalist, but he didn't like Hamilton, just like Jefferson didn't like Hamilton. So after John Adams is president, they kind of pretty much freeze Hamilton out of the Federalist Party and in federal politics in general. So Hamilton's pissed, and he's a writer. So after being frozen out of the party, and he was by John Adams called a quote bastard Creole immigrant, Hamilton starts to write how much he hates Adams, not publicly, just in correspondence to others. And this would bite him in the ass later, not right away, but he's just writing like, I hate that fucking guy. What a piece of shit president. So,
Awesome.
before his bad mouthing of John Adams bites him in the ass, another bad decision by Hamilton bites him in the ass first. In the summer of 1797, James T. Callender published a pamphlet entitled A History of the United States for the year 1796. In it contained accusations based on documents from the 1792 James Reynolds accusations about him stealing money from the Treasury to pay for his mistress. So Hamilton's pissed. He said, I thought all the shit was sealed off. We made an agreement, a gentleman's agreement, you assholes. James Monroe brought it back out and sent it to this guy, James T. Callender. So Hamilton's pissed. He wants retribution. He writes to James Monroe to write me back saying I didn't do anything wrong. I want this to be in writing now. Monroe ignores his request. This enrages Hamilton, and it leads to an argument between the both of them, an argument that almost led to a duel. But Aaron Burr, of all people, helped divert the conflict. He stepped in and said, hey, just calm down, Alex. We're pals. So Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr were also political rivals. Hamilton didn't get along with a lot of people. By thinking he's smarter than everyone, that usually does it, though. You know what I mean? But he was smart as shit.
Yeah.
But Aaron Burr and him didn't get along. The fact Aaron Burr stepped in and helped shows that whether they hate each other or not, there's still a mutual respect, which is kind of nice. And this is where I talk about them defending the first man in the first murder trial. So I'm just going to skip that. Then comes the 1800 election. This was the first two-party election. So Burr, during that election, gets a hold of some of that old Hamilton correspondence, bad-mouthing John Adams, and releases them publicly. This caused enough infighting in the Federalist Party that they would be out of the presidential race. And it was down to two Democratic Republicans, ending in a tie. Alexander Burr and Thomas Jefferson tied for the presidential election, electoral votes. Ties were broken by vote in the House of Representatives, and in the end, Thomas Jefferson won out after a lot of lobbying by Alexander Hamilton to have it that way. He didn't get along with Burr or Jefferson, but he hated Aaron Burr that much more because Burr just released those things about the old president, John Adams. So he was mad at him. So he said, Burr is not a smart guy. He shouldn't be president. So that's how Jefferson won. He won on a tie, which pretty crazy. At the end of Burr's term in 1804, he runs for Senate, running against Hamilton's father-in-law, Philip. Hamilton at this time still hated Burr, and he slanders the shit out of Burr, and Burr loses because of this. That's what they think anyway. That's what Burr thinks. Because at like a dinner party somewhere, Alexander called Burr untrustworthy, and Burr got wind of this and demanded retribution in the form of an apology letter. And Hamilton he doesn't even remember saying it at the party, so he's like, I'm not apologizing for something I don't even remember saying. And Burr was so pissed that he wanted a duel. Like I said, dueling was a major part of a man's pride back then. Calling someone's honor into question was a major thing for pride. And you could ask for a duel for anything. Someone like slights you. Most people, like when you ask for a duel, they just go, oh, I'm sorry, dude. I didn't know that affected that. My bad. And the duel would just go away. Most times that's what happened. And if they did duel, most duels wouldn't be lethal. Like it would just be like someone gets shot in the arm and then you lost because you got hurt more, I guess. Alexander's hugely prideful. And like I said, he's not going to apologize. So him and Alexander Burr duel on July 11th, 1804. They duel at the same place in New Jersey where his son, James Hamilton, had died a few years earlier, dueling It's the same spot. Dueling about fucking someone talking shit about his dad at some dinner party. So they dueled and he died at the same fucking place.
Damn.
Hamilton didn't want to kill. Dueling was on the way out at this point, and Hamilton was against it. But like I said, he's a prideful man. So when he heard about his son dueling a couple years prior, he told him to throw away his shot. If you're gonna go to the, at least show up, just shoot in the air or something. At least you were there. You still have your honor because you showed up, but you didn't have to shoot at a guy. You don't have to murder someone. It's a way of protesting the duel. Just don't participate. So James Hamilton didn't, and he died. Alexander was about to use his own advice with Alexander Burr. Accounts from Burr's assistant say he's just shot up in the air. Other guys from the Burr side say that Hamilton shot at Aaron Burr, but just missed. There is evidence that he did shoot upwards, though, because they found a bullet in the tree above him. I don't know. I don't think bullet tracking technology was around back then. But Hamilton survived the one. He did get shot by Aaron Burr. He survived for a day. He knew he was going to die. His last words were to his wife, Eliza. It was, quote, "Remember, my Eliza, you are a Christian." Some sort of like, "Don't worry, I'm headed to heaven." Fucking shit.
If you fuck anybody else, I will haunt you.
Yeah, that's right. But he knew he was dead. So the mystery today is, did Alexander Burr shoot at Aaron Burr? Or like some historians claim, or did he shoot in the air? Did he throw away a shot? Just a quick thing before we even talk about that. Aaron Burr, after this, he was vice president. He shot at a fucking founding father, killed him. He was charged for murder in both New Jersey and New York, and he went on the run for most of the rest of his life. Thomas Jefferson hated him. He ran to the American West, like the frontier, and he kind of lived out in the frontier, like as a highwayman. He got super jacked and buff, and he learned how to live in the wild like a wild man. When Thomas Jefferson bought all that land from France to double the size of America, he was trying to steal a portion of that land for himself and become Emperor Burr of whatever country there'd be, like past whatever they. That's hilarious to me. Burr had this weird life where he kept living on, super disgraced by Americans, infamous for killing Alexander Hamilton, but still like, I'm a badass and I'm doing it. He's trying to be Emperor Burr.
Which is crazy because like they both agreed to a duel, and what do you expect to happen?
100%. But they're trying to be more civilized. You know, we have slaves, sure, but we're not going to shoot each other. We're Americans now.
We'll make our slaves shoot each other.
The whole dueling thing's crazy. Okay, say I want to do, and you don't want my satisfaction, like say sorry or whatever. We'd go find a lieutenant, like a partner. Let's say I went and got Celeste, and you went and got a Rick, and then we get Celeste and Rick to talk to each other. We're sure we can't do anything because we're too mad at each other. We're just going to shoot. We're not reasonable anymore. Our lieutenants. If we can't, then we pistols head, buddy. 10 paces. Let's do this.
Yeah, dude, I saw John Wick 4. I know what's up.
I don't know if I think Hamilton was much of a hothead enough to shoot at him. I think he probably did shoot at him and get killed that way, but that's not the propaganda they wanted to spread when that happened.
I would have shot myself in the head to deprive him the satisfaction.
Fuck you, Aaron Burr, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your dick's little. Bang. The equivalent of insulting someone and then blocking them on Facebook, but for the 1700s.
Pamphleteers or TikTokers with influential videos. Angry fucking troll is the guy who shoots himself in the head in a duel. All right. The parallels just keep on coming. No, it's I did like do it writing this, like learning about Alexander Hamilton. I'm sure there's so much more like I didn't touch on. But yeah, Hamilton was a very interesting character in your guys' history, and I don't know, I had fun reading about it. I can see why they made the little musical about him. It's just like for a young guy like that to accomplish so much before he's even like 20 is, to me, it's nuts.
Yeah.
But I guess it's, I don't know. When you're going to a brand new country like that, like, do you think it would have been easier for not everyone, like let's just say a white guy, would it be easier?
That's just for the sake of argument.
If everyone was equal at the time, like it would have been easier to be like a super poor guy to go to like a crazy frontier place like that and just carve out your own spot. Like I get not everybody could do that, but like I guess it's harder though. And like I would never want. I'm lying. It'd be way harder. Never mind. You have to like fucking live off the land and shit. No, right now I have convenience. Convenience is so much easier now.
Yeah, sure is.
All right. Well, what else do you think? That's good. We're good. I'm good. I had
Yeah,
enough. I had
yeah,
enough of
I'm
Alexander
satisfied.
Hamilton.
I'm satisfied with knowing how poor my education was.
Well, that was what I was really interested in, is how much you guys learn of this, because I felt so dumb.
Oh, we learn all of it. I have no recollection of it.
That's fair. Depends your teachers and stuff too. Some teachers would have just like breezed through it.
Yeah, the ones in Texas would start talking about Jesus
And
and
Jesus
how
was
he had a
here
hand, and yeah,
before the founding fathers. Now that's
that's right.
Utah, because they Mormons, don't they think that someone was here with dropping tablets off?
Yeah, they think Jesus was here. I don't get it. Or that might be Jehovah's Witnesses,
Oh, whatever.
Mormons. I don't fucking know. They're all stupid.
Mormons have the John Smith or whatever, and he's found the tablets over here.
That's what it is. You're
Yeah,
right.
it's Mormons.
I just watched Private Dicks and I think RJ's the funniest.
What? Come on.